Hey guys, what's up? Jordan Norell here, making my daily video on circumcision, and today I want to share with you a letter that I wrote to my mom about circumcision a little over 3 years ago. I'm still in the midst of PTSD from circumcision. It's actually before I knew that she performed circumcisions as a doctor, and since then I've had a couple more conversations with her, planning to talk to her again and maybe even record that. Hopefully I'll be able to make a series out of this and show how to both work through these feelings, expose these feelings, tell the truth, and show the world, as well as how to really talk to someone. But this one is just really me expressing my rage, as I think we all need to acknowledge and express that to ourselves, at the very least. So, here is my letter to my mom. Dear Mom, the last time I talked to you about circumcision, I feel like you didn't really listen to me. It was when I had just found out about it on the internet and started to actually understand it, and I was extremely upset and confused and felt like my whole world was crumbling around me, and you weren't there for me. You didn't try to comfort me. You didn't try to understand why I was concerned about it. You didn't listen to or ask about my feelings around it. You didn't even really tell me you were sorry. What you did do was to completely invalidate my feelings, give me stupid, nonsensical excuses and reasons for why it was right or why it didn't matter. You told me that there was probably not anything I could do for it now, even though I told you that there was a thing called restoration, and all men who did it said it made it way better. You didn't research it enough to actually understand restoration or my feelings, or hardly anything that I said to you about it. I was terrified to talk to you about it because you have never helped me to feel comfortable talking about sex with you. I didn't feel emotionally safe, and you met and exceeded my expectations by not being the least bit empathetic or consoling. Maybe you were trying to help by saying that it was really just a cosmetic procedure, or that most men still had sex lives that were just fine even though they were circumcised, but that didn't help. Have you ever thought maybe it's wrong to perform a cosmetic procedure on a baby boy by altering his genitals, something I can never reverse, and that for all you know could have extreme effects on my sex life? How much did you actually know about it when you did it to me? I feel like you didn't really care about it at all when you did it to me, like you didn't even have a second thought about cutting off part of my penis. You didn't think of it as my body at all, that I should have a choice of what to do with it, whether or not I wanted to amputate and mutilate my private parts, the most personal thing I have. I used to think my penis was the coolest thing in the whole world. It was my favorite body part. I thought sex was the most amazing, beautiful, sacred thing that I could ever experience in life, and that the human body was the most extraordinary thing that nature and God could possibly have created, especially the parts that made us male and female, that were so mysterious and tantalizing. I was so excited to discover that part of myself, and my partner fantasized about it, dreamed about the day when I would have that indescribable fulfillment of being with another human being in a way that is so intimate, so loving, so tender, so perfect, with our bodies that were designed through billions of years of evolution to work together flawlessly and seamlessly. It was so unbelievably fascinating to me. I could hardly even believe how lucky I was to be born with this perfect body in this perfect situation. I knew that all I needed in life was this body, heart, and mind, and to find a person who I truly loved so that I could share it with them, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. Sex is the one place where all of those things meet in ecstasy and perfect fulfillment in indescribable bliss, using this body that was perfectly designed to give me the absolute maximum amount of pleasure, which evolution designed so that all I would want to do is do it again and again. Sex was designed to create amazing emotional bonds, to encourage us to raise our children together, to enjoy it immeasurably more than anything else, especially men, since the more sex they have, the more they can reproduce, to fall deeply in love and be perfectly happy with nothing but each other. I could be homeless, jobless, have nothing. I didn't really care about the pleasures of food, of exciting things. Really nothing mattered that much to me except having an ordinary life in which I could enjoy what God and nature had given me. I knew that's all I ever needed to be happy. My sexual self-esteem was 10 out of 10. I thought my penis was perfect, my favorite possession in the whole world. I imagined sex being the most amazing, mind-blowing thing of all time. Now, my sexual self-esteem is negative 100 out of 10. I hate my penis more than I thought I could ever hate anything, and I dread sex, because it's so fucking painful for me emotionally. It's not just a phase. It's not getting better. I think about circumcision hundreds of times a day, and I have for the last 2 years. For the year and a half before that, I would think about it every single night and was still able to push it out of my mind during the day. At night I would jack off while reading about it. I felt like I was so fucked up, I hated myself, I felt so confused. I couldn't stop reading about it, and everything I read hurt me so bad. But my body needed release. I'm such an extremely sexual person. I still had to masturbate, but I stopped caring about women or sex or anything besides foreskin and circumcision. And all I did was read about how bad it was and think about it and try to get release physically, even though I couldn't help myself from reading all the terrible things that just made me feel mentally and emotionally worse and worse and worse. It just got worse every single day. While I was at NDSU, I would jack off without lube the way intact men naturally do because they still have their perfectly designed, amazing, beautiful, perfect penis. What I was supposed to have was the foreskin, which acts as a gliding tube of skin as it ecstatically glides up and down the shaft. I feel like I know exactly how it would feel, but I will never, ever feel it. The videos of men enjoying their foreskins look so much more immeasurably pleasurable than anything I have ever experienced, and perhaps than I ever will experience. Many men who have been cut as adults say it's like going from color to black and white, like going from bare skin to like wearing a condom or like wearing a glove, because it so drastically reduces sensation. They say that the difference is utterly indescribable, that they can feel their way around the inside of a woman's vagina, that their penis didn't feel like a dull, nearly numb, dead, dry, pressure-sensing stump, that because they still had the majority of the nerves in their penis, circumcision cuts off 80% and almost all of them are the fine-touch, specially designed pleasure sensors, which detect minuscule variations in temperature, fine movement, stretch, and vibration. So the pleasure is so intense that they don't even want more, that their orgasms are so mind-blowing that they are exhausted afterwards, that they are elongated, full-body orgasms in which they lose control. It isn't just briefly ejaculating and feeling a relief and slight increase in pleasure. It's limited to just the penis. That sex is actually pleasurable. That's everything I ever dreamed of and believed I would experience. That I would find the act of sex to be the most fucking amazing thing in the whole world. That I would enjoy the whole act from start to finish, gradually building and growing, but enjoying the whole journey, not just waiting for ejaculation. I get sore pretty quickly because my penis is so dried out. And the giant callus over my glands causes a lot of friction and pain sets in after a little bit, so that until my girlfriend orgasms, I feel like I need to just tolerate the burning, aching pain so that she can come, even though it just hurts, and I am absolutely everything but enjoying it. All the things I imagined sex would be have been replaced with such deep sadness, incredible rage, pain, stress, wishing that I was just dead. Life hasn't been worth living for a long time. Circumcision makes me so fucking depressed and emotionally distraught that the pain is so great, it just outweighs the pleasure and happiness in life. Why did you do this to me? What made you think it was okay to cut off part of my penis? I just don't understand. I will never understand how anybody could do that to their own child, their own newborn baby. To hurt them so imaginably bad in the worst way I can possibly think of, in a way that they will never be able to undo. I would rather be raped 3 times every day for the rest of my life than circumcised. I would rather you cut off my hands, or cut off my feet, or cut out my eyes, or took away my taste or hearing than cut off my source of pleasure. I would rather be dead than circumcised. Circumcision is a euphemistic term. It is not just circumcision, it is genital mutilation. It is the exact same thing as what they do to girls. It cuts off twice as many nerves as they do in girls. No wonder men in this country all seem so sexually reserved and like they don't enjoy it as much as women compared with European countries. How would you like it if I strapped you down as a baby and sliced off your clitoris? If you had to live every day knowing that your vagina had been altered at birth in a way that takes away your pleasure, stops you from enjoying the thing that you loved most in life, more than anything else, that it was done for absolutely no good reason, that half of the members of your gender in America got to keep their bodies and they never even think about it, that they experience sex as ecstasy. This is just an integral, natural, amazing part of their life. Do you know what it's like to be suicidal every single day for years on end because your parents tortured you as a baby and destroyed your body? Cut off what is often called the male G-spot. If you had ugly, jagged, dark brown scars and twisted off centered skin on your genitals and your dick curved to the left, probably because of tight pulling of the skin, because half of the skin was cut off and you were skinned alive at birth, the amount of skin that would cover a 3x5 index card to constantly remind you every time you went to the bathroom, showered, or just took off your clothes that your body has been altered at birth without your consent. When I was trying to masturbate the way men were intended and made to, without lubrication, the skin would tear and I would bleed from my penis. And I was so angry and upset and depressed and suicidal that I didn't even care that I was harming myself, and it was extremely painful. I would just keep going. Now I have a small skin bridge where the tissue is scarred over. Memories keep coming back, and it doesn't matter whether they are real or imagined. I feel the surgeon calmly, coldly, uncaringly slicing into the most sensitive skin on my body, my arms and legs strapped down, after first peeling the foreskin from the glands, the same as peeling a fingernail off, except that, again, it's the most sensitive skin on the male body. Then putting the device on and crushing the skin, and then ripping through my skin in a circle, uncaring, sloppily, not thinking about the fact that this was my penis and it would forever be ugly, terribly scarred, and the foreskin remnant twisted sideways, so that it felt strange and didn't line up with the shaft skin. The memories have played themselves for me hundreds, if not thousands, or tens of thousands of times. Every night as I'm trying to go to sleep, and every morning as I'm waking up, again and again and again, the ripping through my skin, tearing, cutting, crushing, burning. Do you know if they used anesthetic? It's unlikely. Often doctors still don't, over half the time, and it was even less common back then. They think it's unnecessary, that infants don't feel or won't remember it, despite the fact that studies have shown that infants are even more sensitive than adults, who are usually completely sedated for the procedure, and that psychology has shown that the younger a child is, the more a traumatic event will negatively affect them later in life. Maybe that's why circumcised men have autism and other emotional disorders 2 to 5 times as often as intact men do. Maybe it's why when they are significantly more sensitive to pain. I've always been extremely sensitive to pain, have had terrible social anxiety, and have had nonverbal learning disorder. In any case, circumcision hasn't helped by tearing me apart and making me suicidal for the past few years. No one cares. I can hardly talk about it with anyone except my girlfriend. I told my psychologist and he basically told me to get over it. Dad was a lot more empathetic and apologetic, but he basically still just told me I would get over it. I haven't gotten over it. Do you know if they cut me high and tight, high and loose, low and loose, low and tight? Was it just like picking my outfit out each day, deciding for me how I would experience or fail to experience my sexuality for the rest of my life? Or did you have no idea how they did it? Did you not even research it at all, or even know that some styles reduce sexual pleasure far more than others? That some styles cause inability to feel almost any sexual pleasure? That had the surgeon been bad enough, I could have died as hundreds of babies do every year. Or lost my dick as many more babies do every year. I wish I would have died. Did you make sure they protected my frenulum, so I would experience at least a little bit of pleasure? Did you think about how it might be having my glands, my internal organ, turned permanently inside out so that it would be constantly irritated, become dried out, develop a thick, ugly, disgusting callus over the head, and lose most of its sensation? Do you even understand a man's sexual anatomy? Can you tell me about the ridged band, the frenulum, the frenular delta, the inner mucosa, the dartos fasciae muscle, the specialized nerves, Meissner's corpuscles, the essential functions of the foreskin for gliding motion and lubrication during sex, the estrogen receptors, the foreskin's role in regulating sexual thrusting and gradual controlled approach to climax? Did you ever consider what it might be like for me when my urethral opening narrows due to constant abrasion, causing meatal stenosis so it sharply burns every single time I pee? Something I thought was normal, something which is fairly normal, since it happens in a large percentage of mutilated men. Did you think about how the extreme pain of having my most sensitive body part ripped apart and exposed to the acidic burning urine inside my diaper, which I was helpless to do anything about, might have affected me in my first weeks of life of experience on this earth? I don't understand how you could do this to me. I just don't understand. The only thing I can think of is that you were mentally handicapped, or that you were some kind of extreme psychotic sadist, or most likely that you simply absolutely hated me and wanted me to torture me, inflict unimaginable, irreversible suffering on me for the rest of my life. I did not know what hatred was until I started learning about circumcision. It grew in me more and more the more I thought about it. I never knew what hatred was. I never could have fathomed that anybody could ever hate anything remotely as much as I hate myself, my penis, you, Dad, the one who cut me, society, the world, everything. Every cell in my body hates life, hates sex, hates that I am alive. I cannot tell you how many times I have sobbed uncontrollably with the deepest grief, ripping the flesh off my face and my hair out of my head, screamed until my voice was unable to speak, laid in my bed at night, shaking in uncontrollable, burning rage, held knives to my wrist and my penis, thinking about the ecstasy of obliteration, sweet non-existence. I think about it every day, hundreds of times a day. When my girlfriend says she has a funny story, something interesting, anything, my mind, without fail, rushes with lightning speed to the topic of circumcision. My heart races in a moment of terror, and I freeze up until she says something and I realize it's not about circumcision, as it almost never is. At least I can talk about it with her, and she understands. Every time I see a sex scene or hear a sexual reference or joke, every time I see or hear or read the words circumstances, circumference, circumscribe, every time I see a child early elementary age or younger, every time I hear references to cutting something, every time I hear a baby cry, every time I hear anything about pregnancy or having babies, hear anything about amputation, blood, trauma, injury, abuse, autism, mental disorders, and so much more, I freeze up. I become extremely depressed, and usually for a few minutes, but sometimes for hours, I can't get out of the mood. Oftentimes for no reason I think about it. I'm obsessed. I can't escape it. I can't meditate without it flooding my mind in unrelenting abuse. I'm terrified to tell you about this because I'm afraid you will ridicule me, tell me I'm wrong, stupid, etc., but it's a huge part of the pain I am going through, and I expect you to pay me back for it, so I will tell you. I've been restoring my foreskin, that is, stretching the skin so that it will cover the head again. It makes my penis uncomfortable all the time. It limits my range of movement, and when around others I am constantly worried that it might come off or that it will start hurting and that I won't be able to fix it. I will probably have to wear it all day, every day, for between 15 and 20 years to get back a poor substitute of what you took from me in just a few minutes. I have been doing so for about a year and a half, and sex and masturbation feel way better than I ever thought they would be able to before. The devices aren't cheap, and I've had to try several different things out, and I expect you to support me and fully pay for all of it, as well as for all the hair ties I've bought to keep the skin from slipping back. I expect you to pay for my membership, past, present, and future, to Foragin, the company which is attempting to regenerate full foreskins within 5 to 10 years. I demand that you pay for the artificial lubricants that I've had to use and will continue to have to periodically use because of my lack of my body as it was made, in which you ordered to be ripped apart. I expect you to pay for the books I bought on circumcision and the future books I will buy on it. I expect you to pay for any corrective surgery I may one day have to remove the scar tissue to realign the skin, and hopefully one day the surgery to regenerate my foreskin. You and Dad are 100% responsible for all of these things. If you want to be part of my life, I demand that you pay for them all happily without argument or complaint. If you say no or argue, I will walk out the door and you will never see or hear from me again. You ought to pay for the 45 minutes every day I spend taking off and putting on the device and doing manual restoration. 45 minutes over 20 years is about 5,000 hours or more, depending on how long it takes. So if I make $50 an hour at the job I will be working at, you should be paying me something like $200,000 for the time I am wasting, which could have been prevented if you were not so fucking stupid and careless and took a few extra minutes to think about the fact that you were cutting off part of my body for no good reason, which I can't get back. Restoration doesn't fix it. It only makes it better than it was, still not nearly as good as it should be. And I will still miss out on 30 years of sexual experience that I should have had. My body and my youth, the best possible time for sex, will be thrown away in the garbage with my foreskin, no matter what. You can't give that back. You can't pay me for all the pleasure I am missing out on, for all the emotional pain I went through. This is worse than my emotional disorder. It was worse than social anxiety. It's worse than nonverbal learning disorder. It's worse than my best and only friend killing himself. It's worse than all of the heartbreak I have ever been through, than my parents getting divorced. It's worse than all of those put together. I would experience all of those 100 times if I could have my foreskin back. I would go through the pain of being circumcised every day if I could have my whole body back, the feeling that I am whole, that I love my body, that I love myself. As much pain as it physically causes and pleasure it takes away, the psychological emotional damage is so much worse. How can you not have foreseen the possibility of genital mutilation causing me the most excruciating psychological distress which humans can experience? My life is a living nightmare, every day. It's literally like the worst nightmare I could have imagined, living it day after day, never able to wake up. Because this is my life now. This is what I have to go through. This is what you've done to me. If I could have you circumcised, I would. You deserve it. If I could have you killed, I would. You deserve it. You have no empathy and a single bone in your body? What the fuck is wrong with you? How can you possibly live with yourself knowing that you did this to an innocent, helpless baby, let alone your own baby? You deserve torture for the rest of your worthless fucking life, because that's what my life is. No punishment ever given, or which is even legal, could be as bad as what you've done to me. You deserve to burn in hell. I hate you. If you gave me $1 million, it would not make up for what you have done to me. If you gave me $1 billion, it would not make up for what you have done to me. If you gave me $1 trillion, if you gave me infinite wealth, it would not make a dent in making me feel better or happier. But you won't give me that. You won't give me $200,000 for my wasted time. You don't have the money. You won't sell your precious house, stand up to your pathetic husband. You're a pathetic piece of shit. You really don't deserve to live. You never loved me, but I never thought you hated me until I found out about this. Now I feel like you must hate me more than I can even imagine hating anybody. I need you to talk to all of your coworkers and to tell them about everything that I've told you about circumcision. I need you to go to all of your past patients who have cut their babies because of your recommendation or because you didn't tell them how bad it was, and I want you to apologize to them and tell them about it. I want you to tell all of your future patients about it. I want you to research it and know everything that you can know about it. So that's it. It's a letter to my mom. As I said, in the future I plan to talk with her more and be a little bit more diplomatic than that letter, because that's what it takes, to really make a change around this. And we have to work through all of our emotions. We have to feel these feelings. We have to express them. We have to reveal the damage that this causes to men, the true horror that it is. And then we have to have compassion and do what works, do what really convinces people, which means also listening, which, don't get me wrong, it's taken many years of healing work to get to a place where I can do that. But yeah, stay tuned. More on the situation as things continue to develop. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.